Alright, I'm here to talk to you today about songwriting. What I consider great songwriting, give you a list of some great songwriters. I got a top 13 made up. You know, I certainly haven't listened to all songwriters or all songs. I haven't listened all the music in the world. But I've been studying songwriting for over 20 years now, and I feel like I'm in a good position to make a list. The top 13. Alright, number 13, John Fogerty. John Fogerty, of Creedence Clearwater. And John Fogerty wrote great songs. His voice alone is like an icon to me. Number 12 is the one and only Ray Charles. Is like my musical soulmate. I've always loved Georgia on My Mind, one of my favorite songs of all time. And when you think about Ray Charles and all that had to deal with in his life, I mean, he wrote beautiful music. And when he sang it with all the emotion, you just felt it, and somehow was able to get the music to go through life. Just choirs and orchestras and everything, to the point that you felt the hurt, or you felt the joy, or whatever the song was about is just spectacular. Number 11 is Bob Marley. Bob Marley had great lyrics. He had great vocals and he had a whole movement behind it. But it got kind of crowded when I was making this list. But Bob Marley made amazing songs. Anything Is My Eating the Chain, it would be a great song. No Woman, No Christ, tears it up. As well as the track One Love. So on to number 10, which is Kurt Cobain, and I think he was the most influential songwriter of the modern era. He could rock like Smells Like Teen Spirit and Our Checkbox. He could pop in Bloom and About a Girl. It's Serenade. Apologies, Something in the Way. His lyrics were creative and ambiguous. Markup grade poetry. He used unpredictable modal chord progressions, which I think made his song sound really interesting and different from He's Gonna Come Before, and you see a lot of people copying that type of sound. He was a great singer, great guitar player, both in the Rich City wrote and solos that he wrote and played. He continues to be relevant nearly 30 years later. And he had a big impact on me. I was 13 when he committed suicide. And my favorite album, growing up, was The Unplugged in New York from 1993. And number 9, I have Mick Jagger and Keith Richards, the songwriting team from Rolling Stones. Obviously they're very prolific. They made great music for 3 decades, basically 60s, 70s and 80s. I didn't really listen too much as like Lou Lounge and stuff like that. I just kind of lost interest. They could rock Catching Me, Knocking, Jumping Jack Flash. They could pop like Satisfaction and Miss You, and it could serenade Wild Horses and Angie, songs like that. Great guitar work, dual guitar work, vocals and harmonies. Like the Beatles, they wrote some of the most popular and recognizable songs. While I don't think they're as deep as the Beatles. But I also think that early 70s Stones is better than anything that Beatles ever did. It's just more pure, less shackled by expectation. My favorite album, by the Stones, is XL on Main Street from 1973. So number 9 is Mick Jagger and Keith Richards. Number 8, I have Roger Waters and David Gilmour, the songwriting team from Pink Floyd. Their music was very sophisticated, compositional, operatic in nature, but still song-based, even though some of their songs are like 1,520 minutes long. Now Waters wrote most of the songs, but Gilmour had an influence on the overall sound, so I don't like to separate them. If you listen to Comfortably, Money and Fearless, things like that, like it's tough to take Gilmour out of those songs, even if Waters wrote most of the lyrics, melodies and chord progressions. They made some of the best albums of all time. Wish You Were Here, Dark Side of the Moon, The Wall, and a lot of their content included political themes and commentary. Like Another Brick Wall, Part 2, You Know, We Don't Need No Education. My favorite one by them is Animals from 77. It's great. Number 7, I have Neil Young, Canadian. He's very prolific and influential. He could rock and Free World, Downtown. The Pop American Dream, Carpool. He could turn a needle on the damage done, Hey, My Mind, many other great songs. We produce high quality music over 6 decades, and he's still doing it out there today. Was part of several other bands. He wrote great songs with Buffalo Springfield, like Expecting to Fly. And with Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young, like Ohio and Helpless. He's a great guitarist, both acoustic and electric, harmonica player and an amazing singer. He's always been really passionate and outspoken. I appreciate that about him as well. And he's an experimental risk taker. When you look at the trends, Elmer Greendale, things like that. My favorite album is Zuma with Crazy Horse 1975 at number 6, John Lennon and Paul McCartney. They're obviously very prolific and influential, wrote some of the most popular and recognizable songs of all time, continue to evolve their songwriting, both of the Beatles and a solo artist. Their songs became deeper once they were influenced by Dylan. They had great chord progressions and melodies, great lyrics, and they recorded some of the best harmonies ever. One thing I want to point out is a lot of people equate Lennon with lyrics and McCartney with writing music, and they could both do both. Lennon wrote great lyrics, melodies and chord progressions, and McCartney wrote great lyrics, melodies and chord progressions. Overall, I think Lennon is the better songwriter. When you listen to songs like Julia Across the Universe, Help, Jealous Guy. Imagine. I don't think McCartney could write songs like Good on the level of the songwriters on this list but include them together because it's hard to separate them. My favorite Beatles album is the White Album from 1968. But it's hard to pick one. There's a lot of really great homes. That's number 6, John Lennon and Paul McCartney. At number 5, I have Warren Zevon, who is probably the most audacious songwriter. If you listen to a song like French Inhaler, no, nobody wrote a song like that. Like, it's crazy. And he can write really harsh songs like Play It All Night Long and beautiful songs like Keep Me in Your Heart, and sometimes both at the same time. Like Carmelita, he was an incredible musician. He was a wild pianist and solid guitarist, and played harmonica. And most people don't know he studied composition with Igor Stravinsky, the composer of The Rite of Spring and Firebird and such, when he was in Los Angeles. A little trivia thing about Warren's, he was the Everly Brothers musical director for a while, and he could really rock like Boom Boom and Seenie, and he could do pop music like World's a London and Excitable Boy, and he could serenade like Muhammad's Radio. Another cool thing he did was he wrote historical songs like Vera Cruz and Rolling the Headless Thompson Gunner. And he could write funny songs like Hit Somebody, the hockey song, and Lawyers Comes in Money. My favorite album by him is Excitable Boy 1978. And when he died, Bob Dylan did some of his songs as a tribute to him in concert. So I don't think Dylan had a tremendous respect for Warren's ego. And that says a lot about how great he was. Number 4, I have another Canadian, Leonard Cohen, who came from a literary background. He'd written 2 novels and many books of poetry before he even started writing songs and recording albums. So he has that heavy poetry influence, and his lyrics are very sophisticated. There's No Love Calling You by Your Name or Suzanne is also very prolific, wrote a couple 100 songs, I think. The themes are a mixture of religion and sex, like Hallelujah. Is This What You Wanted? And he really suffered over, because there's like many drafts, we say how he had some like 15 verses before he narrowed it down to the 4 or 5 that you normally hear. He had a great guitar style. Influenced by flamenco music, his teacher actually committed suicide after a few lessons said, but he really did develop a really nice guitar style that's hard to imitate. Anybody who's tried to learn his songs exactly know how hard it is to play. He also used very strange chord progressions, very unpredictable, that no one else had used up to that point. Story of Isaac, if you listen to that song, later in his career, he evolved into electronic music. Everybody knows Power Song, but continue to write great songs. Absolutely. And he plays on keyboard solos as well. If I had to pick a favorite, I'd probably say his first home songs, Lennon Corn, it's just brilliant. But he's got a lot of great arms. So that's number 4. Leonard Cohen. Number 3 on my list is Hank Williams. I think he really set a modern songwriter template, along with Jimmy Rogers' Guide to Guitar Writing Songs. Tell him the story. He was very prolific for having such a short life. He died at 29. He has some of the most covered songs in history. Real mythical life and legend, which is a big deal. Sounds are simple, but they're great. Like mostly they're 3-chord songs. Sometimes even 2-chord songs like Ramblin' Man, and sometimes more complicated, like Lovesick Blues. He's very influential, influenced probably everybody on this list. And Leonard Cohen famously said that Hank was 100 floors above him in the Tower song. And I think that just shows the admiration American had for Hank. He didn't really make albums. So I guess my favorite song by him. It's probably Weird Blues from Waiting. If you listen to that song, it's great. So that's number 3, Hank Williams. Number 2 on my list is Bob Dylan. He's very prolific, maybe the most prolific, somewhere 500 plus songs he's written and covered just as many. He's probably the most influential songwriter. Whether it's influencing the Beatles, or Johnny Cash all the way up to present day. He's the man. He pushed boundaries with experimental songs like Visions, Rihanna. It's Alright Ma. He's never stopped evolving and discovering time on a mind level in modern times. They're all great albums. It's great original songs. And now he's into this whole jazz phase with Frank Sinatra. It's really great. Not original music, but he continues to be creative in the ways he's exploring those songs. And I don't think we've seen the last of Dylan. He is amazing output. He's made great music in every decade, even in the 80s when the production stuff wasn't that great. Very Windows Christian fades like every grain of sand. It was an incredible song. Incredible reporting, and Mercy Traveling Wilburys, those were all in the 80s as well. He's played in so many different styles, like he's done rock and roll, blues, folk country, Celtic jazz. Now many songwriters going into that many different styles. He's a great musician. Many people don't give him credit for that. His great guitar fingerpicking, his piano playing is really interesting. And his harmonic playing is amazing. And most importantly, he's a great singer. Really great singer. My favorite album by Bob is Desire. I can 76, but I could probably list off 10 or 11 that are my favorites. So Bob Dylan number 2. Alright, number 1 on my list. My favorite software and the one I think is the best songwriter of all time is Townes Van Zandt. If you read Dylan's interviews, he even admits it. He says, "I don't write songs like Townes Van Zandt," and he was a big admirer of Townes and Steve Earle Scott. That famous quote, "Townes Van Zandt, the best songwriter in the world," and I'll stand on Bob Dylan's coffee table in my cowboy boots and say that anyway. Townes came from a heavy portrait influence as well. He studied English, Stay Robert Frost, and wrote beautiful melodies. He's a real blend of Hank and Dylan. I think of them as a mix of those two. He keeps kind of the simplicity of Hank and adds the complexity of Dylan to make this perfect songwriting blend. He had major key songs that are great, like Contron Lefty Clips to Fly Rex's Blues, like Close to Flies is probably the best song, like You'll Never Write Lyrics That Great Don't Want to Live, or Write Lyrics That Great Everything Is Not Enough, Nothing's Too Much to Bear, Where You've Been Is Good and Gone, All You Keep Getting. Their minor key songs like Wait Around to Die all the way up to Murray. Those are some of the scariest songs that were in Song 4. Now maybe the scary song ever in any real blues songs like Brand New Companion and Going On Blues, all of which are top-notch. Just had a really nice finger-picking style and Travis picking and strumming patterns they developed later on, especially where you can finger pick as well. So you kind of just went to strumming. My favorite album, if I had to pick one, is Lee Great Townes Van Zandt from 1972. So number 1, Townes Van Zandt? Alright, that's the list of my top 13 male songwriters. Keep in mind, it's just my opinion, but I did work hard to make the right 13 people in the list and put them in the right order. If you have a suggestion for us to do a top 13's list, contact us at www.lifeconcierge.com, and please make sure to like and subscribe as well as hit the notification bell. Thanks for watching.